everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my April wrap-up. We are in May now, so it is April, yes. Let me just say that, once again, I am late recording this because I am, if anything, appalling, atrocious with keeping up with deadlines and the pressure to do things at the right time. I've just realised I finished reading Dune Messiah and I don't know where my copy of it has gone. So yes, that's one piece of good news, is I actually finished reading Dune Messiah, and yeah, no, it was really good. And I am intrigued to see where the series goes beyond that, because obviously Paul Atreides, his story arc is over. I'm not going to spoil how or in what manner that his story arc is over, but I think it's like common knowledge that his story arc comes to a conclusion with Messiah, and that's perhaps why Denis Villeneuve is adapting that book, but then apparently not going any further with the series. And then the third book is literally called Children of Dune, so it's focusing on his kids. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was provocative, interesting, and I am very intrigued to see how they adapt it for cinema, and I have faith. But yeah, no, I thought it was a really good sci-fi book. I don't know why it took me so long to read it. I'm just like that. Right, yeah. So another book that I finished reading was Recitatif by Toni Morrison. It's very short and very good. It also, I would say, is required reading, and so is the essay by Zadie Smith that precedes it, which is kind of like an introduction. I think I've said this before, but I feel like introduction is the worst word for what they put in books before the actual story, because it's like, bro, why don't you just spoil the whole story for me? So it should be like an afterword rather than an introduction, like essays about the work that you've just read after you've read the work rather at the beginning. Who knows? It's a mystery. But yeah, no, I pretty much kind of summed this up last time I spoke about it in the way that it is a sort of narrative experiment in sort of characterization and examination of racism, sort of prejudices that people have with race. And that is simply because Toni Morrison writes about two women, one black, one white. She doesn't tell you who is who. It's up to the reader to quiz themselves. And Zadie Smith actually does say in this that she spent a lot of the time that she read it just going backwards and forwards and kind of being like adamant that this particular character was black because of the way she was portrayed, but then thinking, well, wait a second, maybe it's this one. So it's just kind of, we can't help ourselves. And again, that's kind of like what the book is for. It's to examine why are we obsessed with these sort of racial profiles that have been created by our fellow man. So I think it's just very interesting, genius, and this just makes me wholeheartedly need to read more of her work. So if anyone has read some of like Toni Morrison's more sort of recognisable, famous work, where do I start with it? And then I've had a kind of an okay reading month. I read Bonjour Tristesse by François Sagan. This is actually technically two stories in one. I've only read Bonjour Tristesse. I haven't read A Certain Smile, but I feel like I will read that soon. As the cover kind of shows you, it's like this woman laying on a beach, or woman, girl, this person is like 17 years old, so kind of a woman, kind of a girl. That's kind of the point, I guess. She's on the cusp of womanhood, but still clinging on to her youthful sort of childlike ways. So it just feels very summery, and I was just kind of getting in the mood for better weather, and today it is quite glorious. Like, I have made the poor choice of wearing a long sleeve top because I am starting to overheat slightly, but alas, I feel like a little space elven princess, so I'm going to wear it. But yeah, so this is an interesting story. It's written, I think, in the 50s, so like it kind of does fit with that time period. Like, reading it in modern times, you can kind of tell that this is before my time, with the way people act and sort of the I guess, social stand-ins that people conform to. But I mean, for a while, because it's about a girl who's on holiday with her dad and his fling, basically, and then this woman who used to be friends with her mother, so the father's ex-wife, comes to stay with them, and basically suddenly he wants to marry her, and it's just like, what? Okay, where was I going with that explanation? But yeah, no, my kind of weird thought while reading this was that the father and the daughter were just too close, too reliant on each other, and it kind of like, I don't know, my brain just goes to dark fucking places, and I thought it was going to be like, ew, is this like some kind of weird incestuous thing? Alas, or not alas, no, it's a good thing. It wasn't. Spoiler alert, there's no incest. But they just a very strange dynamic between the two of them, and I think that's the point of the story, because at the end something happens and they're just still many years later sort of very much in each other's orbit, and it's just kind of like this sad tragedy of these strange people that kind of, I don't know, like don't open themselves up to the possibility of growth, and yeah, I don't really know. But yeah, it was an interesting read. Bonjour Tristesse, au revoir Tristesse. And a quick update, still currently reading The Wise Man's Fear. I perhaps ludicrously gave myself the task of finishing it in a month. We all knew that wasn't going to happen. But I have made quite a nice dent in it, which I am quite impressed with. So with that kind of in mind, I probably could read another sort of chunk of it, like maybe to like 600. So I got to page 270, so maybe like another 300 next month, although this month and we're halfway through it already, so yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I making progress, enjoying every page so far. Love Patrick Rothfuss as a writer. I just think he holds your attention, and it's just clever writing and atmospheric writing, and at the moment we're still at the university and we're just sort of like floating around trying to solve certain things that happen, but a lot of it is just getting to see characters spend time with each other. Like Kvothe has like a band of friends who he's basically hanging out with, trying to solve something with, and it's just nice like hanging out with these characters while they hang out. So I really enjoy this book, and perhaps it is, you could liken it to the experience of drinking a fine wine. One does not gulp down wine unless you're a bit mischievous. You sip and you savour. So that is how I'm reading that book. So we're at the end of books, because I am, if not a slow reader and perhaps not a fervent reader, as one would assume when, well, I would say this channel isn't really like a booktube channel. It's kind of, I don't know what it is. It's a me channel. So let's get on to movies. I think I watched too many movies this month. I can't remember where I got to last month. I think I spoke about Hackers, because it's just a ludicrous film, and then perhaps the rest of the ones I can talk about this month. And there were an awful lot, so we're going to go through them quite quickly. Next film I saw was The Return, which has got Ralph Fiennes and Juliette Binoche in it, playing characters from, is it the Odyssey? Odysseus. Is he Odysseus? Yeah, Odysseus, and it's basically his return home from his fucking wild adventures after the Trojan War. And I thought it was very interesting to kind of skip the fun, the excitement, and just have him haggard and sea-worn, getting back home to find a whole bunch of little rotten weasels trying to tempt his wife into marriage, and the steadfastness of, oh, what is her name? Is it Penelope? Oh, I need to quickly check. I like Greek mythology, but I can never remember names, and like, I swear there's so many. Yeah, Penelope. Why do I doubt myself? So it kind of demonstrates the steadfastness of Penelope. She is utterly devoted to her husband, despite his 20-long-year disappearance. And so each night so all day she weaves a tapestry or blanket or whatever she's doing on a loom, and then at night she unpicks it all, and I love the story here, and just sort of the dedication, the sort of the beauty of belief and faith in another human. Yeah, it's a very slow moving film, very beautifully shot. I think it was all shot on a Greek island as well, so you just very much feel entrenched in the environment. And yeah, you have to be patient with this film, and there is like a payoff in the third act. If you don't know the story of Odysseus, then warning, spoiler alerts. But yeah, so basically he finally reveals that he is back, but suitors have sort of pressed Penelope so much that she holds a competition that anyone, whoops, just hit my microphone, anyone that can shoot through a certain number of holes in axes can claim her as the prize, which it's a bit icky, isn't it? But alas, this was written centuries ago when women were mere political pawns and not humans with feeling. But kind of the character Penelope kind of shows you could almost say she is a feminist icon, perhaps, in sort of how she outsmarts the foolish men who are clamouring for her hand in marriage. How many axe rings is it? Let me just quickly... Oh, okay, yeah, I can't remember how many it is, but it's kind of impossible, and that's the whole point of it. And so then finally, loads of men can't even thread the bow that Odysseus used to use before he went away. And then he does it instantly, and then it's like... and shoots all through, and it's just like, huzzah! Odysseus is back. And yeah, and then basically there's a bloodbath, and it's quite a dramatic, visceral moment in the movie, and it's just kind of all leads up to that point. I think it's a tremendous film, and it's kind of like interesting that this film has come out like a whole year or more before like the huge Christopher Nolan epic that's going to be of the same sort of story. So it'll be interesting to see where Christopher Nolan goes with that, and I wholeheartedly hope he does kind of the mythical legendary journey, so we encounter like weird beasts, cyclopses. From one of my favourite poems is The Land of the Lotus Eaters, by Alfred Tennyson. Is it called The Land of the Lotus Eaters? I just remember studying that poem at school and just being obsessed with it. Or is it just literally called Lotus Eaters? Yeah. And the Choric Song. But yeah, I just, fucking love that poem. It's like one of my favourite poems of all time. If you haven't read it yet, like, do yourself a favour and read one of the greatest romantic era poems by my boy Tennyson. But yeah, so basically, very good movie. I wholeheartedly recommend it. And I mean, I love Juliette Binoche. I think she is one of the greatest actresses of her generation. So she was perhaps the reason I watched it, but I was also intrigued by Ralph Fiennes' sort of portrayal of a sort of older, battle-worn Odysseus. So yeah, very interesting. And perhaps it would be worth sort of comparing and contrasting when Nolan's movie comes out to kind of see the characterizations and sort of the method of adapting such an iconic story for new generations. Next thing I watched was actually 2 episodes of Black Mirror. I haven't really ever watched Black Mirror before. I think I the only episode that I had watched, because it's about social media, is Nosedive. And so then I kind of saw that a new season had come out, and I'd been meaning to watch it for quite a while, but USS Callister, because it kind of like had Star Trek vibes to it. Finally watched it, and so I watched the first episode and then the second sort of feature-length episode, which is Into Infinity, that came out this year. And by Jove, what tremendous storytelling, and what an interesting story to be telling in this very weird time of the male loneliness epidemic and the rise of the incel and far-right movement, where men seem to be able to audaciously claim a woman's body. Yuck, disgusting. But the way this story is weaved to tell that is fantastically fascinating. It's basically about a lonely programmer who works on a very successful game, but he has access to technology that allows him to biologically clone people he doesn't like or people he's obsessed with and bring them into his own closed version of the game, so he can basically play a macho, heroic Captain Kirk-like figure and have women swooning at him and interested in him and kiss him against their will, and he can basically also punish other men who he doesn't like because they're, I wouldn't say better than him, because some of them are just fucking disgusting as well, but who generally have more success in life than him. And so it's just so interesting, so well portrayed, and genius. Hats off. I have actually watched a couple more Black Mirror episodes. One of them was really fucking tragic. I can't remember what it was called. It was Ordinary People, I think. Jesus Christ, they're kind of like very much an examination of the American healthcare system and sort of the obsession with subscription services and how dark that could get in a future where healthcare becomes an impossible subscription, but already it is impossible for many to be able to afford humane healthcare. So I thought that, again, is genius. And then Bête Noire was the other one that I watched. Was that what it's called? Bête Noire? I'm pretty sure I will have to change it if that's not the right title. But this is kind of like about a woman who works at a food company and she encounters like an old friend, and it's just very bizarre and it kind of makes you doubt everything. And it's basically like gaslighting on a cellular level. And, like, the reveal was kind of smart, kind of cool. And, yeah, like, it's very interesting. And it's kind of like, if you can have whatever you want and change whatever you want, what would you change? Very interesting. And, yeah, so it's safe to say that I am becoming a fan of Black Mirror. And I feel like it was just so my thing anyway. I don't know why it's taken me so long to properly watch it. One caveat I do have is there was an episode that I started watching, but then I realised that it linked to that interactive film, Bandersnatch, so I need to watch that before I can continue watching the episode that I started watching, because it's about like a video game again. But yeah, so that's Black Mirror in a nutshell that I've been watching. Kind of TV, but kind of movie-ish, I guess, because it is like self-contained stories. Next things I watched was Batman and Batman Returns. These are the Michael Keaton Batmans, the Tim Burton Batmans, and you know what? I hate to say it, but I thought they were fucking shit. I mean, I think that maybe is a bit too mean, but definitely the second one, I literally was just thinking, oh, when is this going to end? I just thought it was a bit awful, to be honest. Like, Catwoman was the best part of it. The first one, it was slightly better, but again, it was just so goofy, but like annoying. And I get that Batman, you have to suspend a certain amount of disbelief about a man running around in a batsuit preventing crime. But I just don't know. I really could have done without watching them, if I'm perfectly honest. One thing I did enjoy is how Gotham looked. Like, it's very Tim Burton-esque, like, and the sort of like giant human statues, like sort of made out of steel, and sort of the very kind of gothic industrial atmosphere of Gotham I really enjoyed. But yeah, they weren't for me. Then I watched, well, I might just group these together. I watched several French films. One of them, The Swimming Pool, or La Piscine, I watched it on Amazon Prime, and for the first 5 minutes I was like, oh wait, this is English. Maybe it's just an English film but set in France. Turns out, after I finished it and I thought it was like average at best, they recorded two versions of the film, one completely in French, one completely in English, and lo and behold, the French one is actually technically better because someone said, I think on Reddit, that it was edited better, so I watched a substandard version of a slightly better film. So I'm a bit annoyed about that. The next film I watched was the second act, or Le Deuxième Acte. This is a film by that weird French guy. What is his name? Quentin Dupieux. Who made Deerskin and some really other weird, strange movies. I thought it was a bit shit, not gonna lie. But half of it was purposely shit because it's kind of like talking about AI, and it's basically the shooting of a film, and for a lot of the time you're like, why does this film not make much sense? And it's like almost a film within a film, and then suddenly this other plot point of it being written completely by AI, and for all the actors involved it's their first AI or fully written AI and directed movie. And so then it starts to become a bit clearer why it's just fucking shit. And it's just a bizarre movie, but it's kind of like an interesting look at the future of creativity, and perhaps a warning to not go too far with AI and for it to kind of replace people in creative fields, which I guess is a necessary conversation. The main reason why I watched the film actually is because it's got Léa Seydoux, who I love, in it, and it's also got Louis Garrel, who I've watched far too many of his films. Yeah, so like they're great in it as always, but it just kind of, I don't know, like I thought it was one thing, it turned out to be another thing, and kind of just a bit bizarre and a bit silly. And it's supposed to be a comedy, but I didn't find it that particularly funny. But yeah, anyway. Then the other French film I watched was The Balconettes, or in French, Les Femmes au Balcon. And this was directed by Noémie Merlan, who was a French actress. And if anyone has watched the tremendous, beautiful film Portrait of a Lady on Fire, then she's actually one of the actresses in it, and the film was co-written between her and Celine Sciamma. But I didn't really particularly like this film at all, so what a shame. I felt like it was just a bit heavy-handed, but it was also interesting. So it's like basically a feminist movie about three women who encounter a man across the balcony from them, and it's about the violence that men commit against women, and then in return violence is committed against a man, and they basically have to hide the body of this dude. But in a twist that kind of makes it a bit more goofy is that one of the women starts seeing ghosts of men that have been killed by women. It was an alright watch, but it was very, very over the top, and yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. Then another film that was French, but technically, yeah, no, it was in French. The Piano Teacher, or La Pianiste. This is by Michael Haneke, which I always find his films a bit of a struggle, but I actually did get through this one, because I've tried watching a few of his other films and have not been able to finish them, because I just got a bit bored. But this is essentially based on a book by Elfriede Janneke, or something like that, who is an Austrian writer. So technically the book takes place in Austria and Vienna, but Haneke supplanted it, even though he is Austrian, into Paris. And essentially it's the story of a piano teacher who I would say is like almost middle-aged, perhaps, played by the wonderful, the amazing, what's her name? Isabelle Huppert. And yes, she lives with her mother, and there is a very strained relationship between them. The mother is overbearing, controlling, shames her for any kind of modicum of sexuality. It's never really explained why it's like that, but there is something very strange going on between the two women. And basically she becomes obsessed with a student, and they have like this weird relationship. It's just very weird, and like such an interesting role, and psychologically fucked up, and it's really kind of disturbing as you watch events unfold. I would recommend it, kind of. If you don't mind going on a weird dark journey into the psyche of a mentally unstable woman who has dark obsessions. And yes, I don't really know what else to say about it other than it's a ride, and it's a ride you might want to jump off of at any point. So they're the French films I watched this month. I could potentially talk about ones I started watching at the beginning of the month, but there's just too many to talk about. So let's go back to a Norwegian film. So I finally watched Oslo August 31st by Joachim Trier. I kind of wanted to watch this before his newest film comes out, which is going to premiere at Cannes this year. And like this was one that I'd been meaning to watch for ages. It's quite a sad film, no doubt about it. It's a look at a young man who is basically depressed, and he's a recovering drug addict, and he gets to leave the facilities staying at to meet up with people from his life, to talk to them, and prepare to say goodbye. That's all I'm going to say. It's fucking sad. It's beautiful, tragic, moving, and kind of makes you think about life and your fellow human. We go to perhaps the best film I've seen this month and this year so far, which is Sinners by Ryan Coogler. Everyone has been on the hype train with this, and for once the hype train is 110% correct. Stunning, beautiful, amazing story set in the 1930s in Jim Crow America that examines racial tensions, using horror genre tropes of vampires. Absolute genius. And it kind of just proves everything that people have been saying about Hollywood to be wrong. People are interested in stories with non-white leads. People are interested in original stories that aren't a sequel of a sequel of a sequel of a sequel or a reboot of a fucking film that's been rebooted several hundred times. Original storytelling can have its moment when it's done well. And by Jove, is this film? It's a modern masterpiece. I'm just going to say it. It is 100% a modern masterpiece. And every facet of it is genius, from the music, the mise-en-scene, the costuming, well, that's kind of mise-en-scene anyway, just the plot beats, everything is saying something, and it's brilliant. Like, you've got, obviously, the look at racism, but the way it's done is so intelligent, and you could even see, like, so the vampires in this start off as Irish people who have been oppressed throughout their whole history. So then it's a story about an oppressor becoming the oppressed becoming an oppressor. It's a story about faith. It's a story about traditional values of, so like one of the characters knows about vampires as she is a knowledgeable, where was I? Yeah, so she's a hoodoo practitioner. And what I love about this is obviously has a woman in a point of authority on the situation, which I love. It's also kind of like a reclamation of basically, I mean, obviously not up to this point, but previously women who would have had knowledge of this would have been condemned as witches, burnt at the stake. So it's interesting that they have basically it's interesting that Ryan Coogler centres a woman as the point of knowledge for dealing with the scourge of the vampire. Love that, respect it, beautiful decision. But yeah, basically I have a lot to say about the film, so I might do actually like a written review of it, and you're not going to know this in the cutting, but I just keep getting interrupted by noise going on in the house and outside, so my thoughts have flown out of my body and I've lost all coherent structuring of this, because I have to film when I can, and unfortunately most of the time I can never record when I want to, or I just get interrupted 100 billion times in my recording, so coherent thoughts are not here, unfortunately, so I'm just going to run through the rest of the movies. But essentially it is a masterpiece and everyone should go and watch it. The next film I saw was Wild at Heart, which is a David Lynch movie. Kind of cool but very weird. It's Lynch, what do you expect? It's a strange surreal road trip movie / love story between two strange people. Very David Lynch, and yeah, fantastic, beautiful. And then the final film I watched in April was Fallen Angels by Wong Kar-wai. I love Wong Kar-wai. There's no secret on this channel. Essentially, this film was going to be a third segment for Chungking Express, but Wong Kar-wai wanted to adapt it into its own movie because it just kind of grew and became more than what it was. And I really liked this, but I would say my heart still wholeheartedly belongs to Chungking Express. So essentially it's about two different characters, just a myriad of characters in the same sort of area. That's why like Chungking Express is called Chungking Express, because it's in the Chungking mansions in Hong Kong. And yeah, like there's an assassin in it, then there's like a mute guy who does bizarre things. And bizarrely and weirdly, like, I want to know what Wong Kar-wai's obsession with pineapples is, because in this the dude becomes mute because he eats a can of expired pineapples. Very strange. But essentially it's just kind of more of the same snapshots of life in this one particular area in Hong Kong. I mean, the subtitle, like when you look at it on Letterboxd, it says The Night's Full of Weirdos, and essentially, yes, the night is full of weirdos. It's a great movie. You should totally watch it. Like, beautiful cinematography as always. This sort of frenetic energy of the way it's shot. At this point, like, this style has been imitated so much, and it's like utterly iconic and distinctly Wong Kar-wai and his like aesthetic storytelling style. Right, let's talk about television quickly. So I've watched a couple of shows. One is Black Snow season 2. So this is the Travis Fimmel Australian missing person detective show. Season 2 was brilliant, really enjoyed it. Such dark, tragic storylines in this show. I want more, so many more seasons, please. I don't know whether it's going to come back for another season, because quite a bit of the story did get tied up, but then there was like almost a plot twist. So I feel like they're teasing a potential return, which, yes, please, 100%. I pretty much binged it in 2 days. Then the other show I have been watching is Your Friends and Neighbours, which is a show on Apple TV. It's kind of like a comedy drama, like satire on rich people problems. And it stars John Hamm, who is like this dude. Is he like a hedge fund manager? He's like something to do with stocks and like boring finance stuff. And he's done like everything right in life. He's gone through all the beats of getting a wife, getting kids, getting a better house, getting another better house, getting good cars. He's done like the American dream step by step. But then it all crumbles and falls apart, and now he has to scramble to be able to keep up appearances and afford the lifestyle that he has trapped himself in. And so to do that, he starts robbing his neighbours, which is kind of hilarious. And there's like moments where it feels very American Psycho in how he like lists product details about like watches and things. It's almost like a riff on the business card scene, or when you read American Psycho, there's just like lines and lines about products, almost like people are reading the fucking manual on it or the advertisement. So I appreciate that aspect of it, and it makes me laugh. But yeah, I would say it's a really good show in terms of looking at basically what makes life worth living. Is it the things that you own, or is it the people you go through life with? Then another show that I've been watching is Carême, which is a French language TV show on Apple Plus as well. And this takes place, I think it's post-French Revolution, or kind of like in the dying days of the French Revolution, like after everyone's been guillotined, and sort of the political upheaval afterwards. But essentially it's about Antoine Carême, who history likes to call the first celebrity chef. And so it's basically about him making fabulous food for rich people, but also becoming embroiled in politics and becoming a spy. I don't know how much of this is historically correct, as I don't know much at all about the French Revolution. And interestingly, I have actually started listening to a podcast about the French Revolution because I was just intrigued, because like I don't really know the implications of what's going on in this show, so it kind of just inspired me to kind of find out a bit more about the French Revolution, which I guess is kind of cute. But yeah, I would say it's really enjoyable. It's kind of like it's a bit of like a historical romp. It's entertaining, and it's also by the same guy. Is it Martin Bouillon? Who directed the Musketeer movies that were recently out. And I can't remember whether he did the Comte de Monte Cristo one either. Let me just quickly find out. He did not. And yeah, so then he's made and I think directed some of the episodes in this show. But yeah, I would say it's really enjoyable if you like period dramas with political intrigue. You enjoy looking at beautiful people doing bad things, and espionage, and food. We are at the end, thank God. My throat is like going all a bit gravelly from talking too much. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you've been reading, watching in April. I literally can't keep up with the months. They are flying by. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.